Ask everybody that's present with us, please rise as we open our incoming Shabbat in prayer. Abba Yahweh, we come before you ever so humbly as the body of Yahshua HaMashiach on this incoming of your blessed Shabbat, thanking you for every wonderful blessing in which you bestowed upon each and every one of us. The breath of life in which you put into our bodies, the food, the clothing, and the shelter in which you continually provide us with, the protection and your shielding angels all around us, delivering us from hurt, harm, and danger, healing and deliverance from all manner of bodily afflictions, as well as spiritual conditions that come upon us to try us, Abba Yahweh. We thank you for delivering us from all of those things. And we thank you in advance for continual deliverance as well from upcoming and newly emerging trials as well. We ask at this hour that you look down from the Hashemayim upon those of your people that are troubled, whether in the mind or in the body, whatsoever the case may be. We ask that you take their condition into consideration because you know more about it than I'm capable of articulating, Abba Yahweh. And I ask that you move on the behalf of those that are sick, those that are injured, those that are behind enemy lines in hospitals at this very hour. Deliver them, Abba Yahweh. Restore unto them a greater state of health than what they were in at the time in which their trial hit them, Abba Yahweh. Those who are mourning the loss of family members, friends, and loved ones, those who are grieving at this very hour, Abba Yahweh, we beg of you to comfort them, be with them, take their hand, protect them, and allow them to know that though their weeping may endure for a night, allow them to know that joy will come in the morning, and allow the death that troubles each and every one of us, Abba Yahweh, to serve as a reminder for why we need to draw closer unto you in these latter days. Place within each and every one of us, your servants, a more sincere spirit. Make us more and more real. Make us more and more fervent in our obedience unto you as well as our keeping of the Torah, Abba Yahweh. We beg of you, our enemies. Last but not least, we ask that you chase them, torment them, trouble them, fight against them on each and every side. Every evil work that they seek to implore, to destroy and to terrorize your people, Israel, we ask that you allow their works to be fruitless. Allow their works to return unto them void. Allow the works of their hands to do nothing but bring about chaos, destruction, and damnation unto their souls and the souls of the generations that follow them until one of their family members sees fit to either repent or you establish your kingdom in this earth, whichever comes first, Abba Yahweh. We ask that you allow your will to be done concerning the wicked and those who fight and oppress your people, and allow their reign of terror to never be eternal like they would have it. But when you judge them, allow your judgment and destruction upon them to roll on like they would desire to have their wickedness upon your people. Father, these blessings we ask of you ever so humbly in the name of your Son, Yahshua HaMashiach, our Savior and Redeemer's Kodesh name we pray. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. House of Israel, you may be seated. It's a pleasure to stand here before you all this evening on the incoming of another beautiful Shabbat. I want to total Yahweh for allowing each and every one of you, whether you joined us personally here at 6515 Harford Road or whether you tuned in via the live stream. I want to total Almighty Yahweh for each and every one of you. I want to open this portion of our Shabbat observance reading from the book of Yeshayah 24, Isaiah chapter 24. For behold, Yahweh makes the earth empty and makes it waste and turns it upside down and scatters abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of interest, so with the giver of interest unto him. The land shall be utterly empty and utterly spoiled, for Yahweh has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away, and the hardy people of the earth also languish. The earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they've transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourns, the vine languishes, and all the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of tabrets ceases, the noise of them that rejoice comes to an end, and the joy of the harp ceases. And they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to those who drink it. And the cry of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. And there is a cry for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened, and the mirth of the land is gone. And the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. And when thus shall it be in the midst of the land of the people, they shall be as the shaking of an olive tree, as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is done. They shall lift up their voice, and they shall sing for the majesty of Yahweh. They shall cry aloud from the sea. Wherefore glorify Yahweh in the fires, even the name of Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, in the isles of the sea. From the uttermost parts of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear in the pit, and the snare upon thee, O inhabitants of the earth. And it shall come to pass that he who flees from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit. And he that comes up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth are made to shake. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved, and the earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered into the pit, and they shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when Yahweh of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem before his ancients, gloriously. And as the turmoil that is predicted and written in Almighty Yahweh's word continues to unfold in this earth, may Almighty Yahweh place it upon your hearts to strive to draw closer and closer unto him as his judgment is poured out upon this earth. And may Almighty Yahweh have Hasid upon your souls and spare you and deliver each and every one of you that sincerely calls upon his name from such judgment. And for those of you that are jotting this down this evening, tonight's message, we want to simply talk about being brought out of gross darkness. We're going to talk this evening. It turns everybody's attention to Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1. And when we talk about the darkness, we're not talking the literal darkness in the sense of being confined to electricity being cut off, lights going out, and things of that nature. But we want to talk about darkness, not from the English rendition or the English understanding of the word, but we want to talk about darkness from the Hebrew standpoint, or the Hebrew word for darkness, koshek. And koshek in Hebrew, it's a word with a broad definition. It means not just darkness as in the literal sense, but darkness in the spiritual sense. Darkness along with misery, destruction, chaos, confusion, and disorder. We want to talk about being brought out of koshek this evening, because Yeshaya chapter 60 verse 1 commands us, arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon you. For behold, koshek shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. So as we talk about koshek this evening, we're going far beyond power grids. We're going far beyond electrical outages and things of that nature. We want to talk about the darkness that encompasses the whole earth, as well as that gross darkness that covers the people. The spiritual aspects of koshek. Darkness in the sense of depression, hatred, lust, envy, murder. All of these things that corrupt Yahweh's creation and compel Yahweh's creation to walk away from that marvelous light, which is Yahshua HaMashiach, the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Torah of Yahweh. We want to talk about the darkness that compels a person to feel as though their life is no longer worth living because they've lost a job or because they've lost the ability to provide for family members or loved ones. We want to talk about the koshek, or the gross darkness that comes upon a person that makes them want to kill themselves because a relationship may be over. We want to talk about the gross darkness that's covering the people because they may have lost the ability to provide for themselves honestly and to make a decent living. So they go on off now and they murder somebody for sake of filthy lucre. All of these spiritual conditions that Yahshua HaMashiach, the patriarchs of old, the prophets, and the apostles all talked to us about and told us that they were coming upon this earth. That's what we want to talk about this evening. But it's not all gloom and doom, but yet at the same time, in order to reach those days of mirth and happiness and joy that Almighty Yahweh promised to those that love him and that he promised to those that obey him in the kingdom, before we can get to all of those things, we had to endure some dark, difficult days, as Dr. Martin Luther King said was in front of us in the time in which he made the speech. But in order to enjoy Almighty Yahweh's kingdom in its fullest, the way in which he intended us to do so, we have to be strengthened. We have to take heed to the things written in Almighty Yahweh's word. And most importantly, we have to be real with Almighty Yahweh as well as seek his Ruach HaKodesh. Because in enduring all of the trials and the tribulations that are to befall this earth, in no way, shape, or form are we going to do it of our own might. In no way, shape, or form are we going to do it of our own accord or of our own will. It's going to take the Ruach HaKodesh to be able to stand in the day of adversity and to be able to face down all of the evil and all of the trials that slated to befall not just Israel, but the whole world. Now let's go back here into the book of Deuteronomy. Let's go to chapter 28. And in Deuteronomy 28, we're going to find one of the primary reasons why this gross darkness that Yeshayah chapter 60 verse 2 says will cover the earth and will cover the people. Because one thing about it, if you disobeying Almighty Yahweh's word, if you're not living according to the Torah, I don't care how bright your neighborhood may be, how well lit the pathway in which you travel down on a daily basis may be, if you're not striving to live according to Almighty Yahweh's Torah, you're walking in darkness. You can have a lantern with a light bulb that's it's 1,000,000 watts. I'm just going to make up a hypothetical figure to just go far beyond the levels of brightness of anything that man can produce currently. But you can have a lantern or canteen with a 1,000,000 watt light bulb in it. You walking according to everything that's contrary to Yahweh's word, walking in darkness. And the disobedience unto Almighty Yahweh's word is what set the stage for the gross darkness that's going to cover the people in these latter days. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 says, "But it shall come to pass that if you will not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you." Like that gross darkness in Yeshayah chapter 60, verse 2. It's going to overtake the earth and it's going to overtake the people. "Cursed shall you be in the city, cursed shall you be in the field. Cursed shall be your basket and your store. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body and the fruit of your land, the increase of your kind and the flocks of your sheep. Cursed shall you be when you come in, cursed shall you be when you go out." And you look at us as a people, wheresoever it is that we place, especially here in the United States of America, you tell me that this ain't talking about you and I as black people, people of color, whatsoever terms in which we use to describe ourselves today. You tell me this ain't talking about us? They hate you and despise you in the cities. They give you the cities for a specified period of time. They let you run down the cities and tear everything down, with their help, of course, by way of them withholding necessary resources in order to survive and flourish. But they let you run the cities down, so they curse you, they hate you and despise you in the cities, but then they come on back after a specified period of time. They gentrify the cities. They want to run you out to the counties, into the rural areas, only to have you get out to the counties and the rural areas that surround the cities, and they hate you there. They despise you there. Everywhere you go, they speak ill of you. They treat you poorly. They disrespect you no matter how much money you acquire. Your businesses fail. Your businesses don't thrive like they ought to. All of these different things laid out as a result of our disobedience unto Almighty Yahweh's word. It says, "Cursed shall you be when you come in, cursed shall you be when you go out. Yahweh shall send upon you cursing and vexation and rebuke and all that you set your hand unto for to do, until you be destroyed and until you perish quickly because of the wickedness of your doings whereby you forsaken me. Yahweh shall make the pestilence cleave unto you, and he shall have consumed you from off the land, whither you go to possess it." See all these things. And just think about it. This is Yahweh talking to people that he delivered out of the land of Egypt, instructing them the consequences of obeying him as well as the consequences of disobeying him. And that same curse followed us. One aspect of our punishment was that we, being their sons and daughters, would be dispersed throughout the world. And we will go into the grave state of captivity. And even today, being scattered, removed so far from our homes, and not just the physical sense, but removed far from our homes in the spiritual, the psychological sense, so much so that when we are faced with our true identity and our true culture and customs, we don't even recognize it. It sounds strange to us. It seems odd and funny to us. But yet the conditions of our punishment still follow us all throughout the earth. And as a result of our disobedience and our not taking the law to the world grew out of hand tremendously. So much so that what was prophesied in Yeshaya chapter 60, standing, I won't say it's coming to pass, because it's already come to pass, and it's standing right in our faces. It's breathing down our necks, and there's no getting around it, no avoiding it. But yet at the same time, we don't have any excuses, no need for us to act shocked or dismayed by it whatsoever. Because Yahshua HaMashiach told us of these days, prophesied of these conditions, everything that we're grappling with right now. Yahshua told us that because the love of many shall wax cold, iniquity shall abound. And that's what you got today. We don't love our fellow man like we ought to. We don't love each other like Yahweh's word commands us to do. The word of Yahweh commands us to love each other. But we love not unconditionally the way in which Yahweh loves us, but we love conditionally. We love in a circumstantial sense. We love each other as long as the other person's presence benefits us in some way, shape, or form. We love each other as long as the person that we professing to love acts in the way in which we want them to. But the moment they deviate from how we want them to act, even if they act in accordance with Yahweh's word and correct us when we're wrong, if they deviate from how we want them to act, the love goes out the window. Or as Yahshua HaMashiach said, the love of many wax cold. Let's go here to Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. This Yahshua talking to the apostles here. He instructs them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying that I am HaMashiach, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see that you be not troubled. For all these things have to come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. And all these are the beginning of sorrows. Can you imagine that? All that you just heard, all of that chaos on a grand scale. Nation going against nation, kingdom going against kingdom, famines, pestilence, war, rumors of wars, all throughout the earth. But Yahshua said that's just the beginning of sorrows. And as terrible as that is, that's serious. You think in the minds of many people, oh man, it's terrible, it's it, it's soon to come to an end. No, Yahshua said that's just the beginning. You got whole nations at each other's throats over resources that one nation feels entitled to unrighteously take from another. Then it intensifies. Yahshua says, then shall they deliver you up. Not anybody else, not the Jewish community, not the Muslim community, not the Catholics, not the Hindus, or the nigga I don't know what to do. No, it says that they shall deliver you up. You, as in the children of Israel, Yahweh's seed. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And that's a time of koshek. That's a time of darkness. Not in just the sense of being deprived of electricity and lights, but that's a time of darkness, complete chaos, complete confusion, complete misery, disorder, as the whole world turns against Israel, simply for their obedience unto Almighty Yahweh's word. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. That's sad. That's serious. And this is now closing in or encroaching upon the house of Israel. This ain't about the world now. This is Israel's conduct amongst each other in a time of gross darkness upon the earth. It says, and then shall many be offended and betray one another. A person can't betray you if they're not with you. In order for a person to betray you, a person has to at least feign being with you. Your enemy can't betray you because your enemy is already outright shown their hand. They've already revealed their intentions. You already know you're at odds with them, so they can't betray you. For a person to betray you, that has to be somebody that you place some trust in at some point in time. And they shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And that's what we had to do. Even in this time of darkness, no matter how difficult things may get in our lives, no matter how dark the way may be, we had to be able to take great comfort in knowing that we serve the creator of the most marvelous light in the world. And that light is nothing that Con Edison can create. There's nothing that Constellation Energy Group or Exelon can create. But that light is YAHWEH HaMashiach. It shines and penetrates and illuminates all darkness. So no matter what obstacles Shaitan throws your way to throw you off the path that leads unto salvation, take great joy and great comfort in knowing that you serve the creator of all things. Yahweh is the creator, and I say the creator of all things, I mean all things. He is even the creator of him that troubles you. And the thing you have to get people to see and to realize as they grow closer and closer in their relationship with Almighty Yahweh, your trials are just before but a season. Your trials aren't eternal. But it's what you do in the midst of those trials and enduring in those trials. That's what determines whether or not your lifespan is eternal in the righteous sense, or whether your lifespan is eternal in the sense of damnation and destruction. Because the trials are temporary. You see people, they can profess to have so much strength or so much faith and belief in Almighty Yahweh. The right trial, the right amount of pressure on a person, show you exactly what a person is made of. You put the right amount of pressure on a person, you see which direction they're going, whether they continue to persevere in righteousness or whether they fall by the wayside in wickedness. But YAHWEH says that unto us, those that endure to the end, they shall be saved. And we're going to have to pray, if nothing else. We have to pray for Almighty Yahweh's Ruach HaKodesh, because it's that Ruach HaKodesh that's going to grant the righteous the ability to endure unto the end. It's that Ruach HaKodesh that's going to be able to combat in the latter days the spirit of depression. It's that Ruach HaKodesh in the latter days is going to be able to combat a person's fear of losing their life for YAHWEH HaMashiach's namesake. It's that Ruach HaKodesh is going to strengthen a person and allow a person to be able to say, you know what, if I lose everything I have today for sake of striving righteously, I'll gain much greater tomorrow when I wake up and see Yahweh's face in peace. YAHWEH said that if anybody was to lose their lives for his namesake, they shall find it again. It's that Ruach HaKodesh that'll give you that strength in the face of adversity to be able to stand tall no matter what sacrifices have to be made, even if it is the snuffing out of your life for his name's sake. Let's go on a little bit further. Still talking about the spiritual conditions that come along with this gross koshek, or this great darkness that's going to cover the earth as well as the people. Let's go to the book of 2 Timothy. Excuse me, everybody. In these latter days, you're going to see people rise up against Yahweh's word with a level of hatred and intensity. If you've never seen hatred or known animosity for no reason at all, if you've never known it, it will shock you. But to have a person rise up against you and you be fairly familiar with what it is to be hated or what it is to be despised or disrespected, it don't bother you as much. But in these latter days, you're going to see, if you've never seen it before, a level of hatred that you can't even imagine for Yahweh's word, for his son YAHWEH HaMashiach, for Yahweh himself, for those who adhere to Yahweh's word, and those who simply just want to be saved. Shaitan is like Brother Mark said earlier, as we were having a discussion about the immorality and the wickedness of the world and how it's intensified. Brother Makadai was saying earlier, it's like Shaitan just kicks everything in high gear now. It's like he's just sitting back, just, well, I like the level of abomination that's in the earth right now. You know, I like the level of immorality that's present, but I feel though they could use a little bit more. Full force with the wickedness. You see so much wickedness now as the world grows more and more hateful toward Almighty Yahweh. It's not even funny. You see so much now to the point where pedophilia has been all but legalized. It's been all but written into law as okay. Drug usage, sanctioned. Alcohol is sanctioned and promoted. Whoredom, sanctioned and promoted by the world. Homosexuality, sanctioned and promoted by the world. While the world simultaneously that promotes all of that wickedness will condemn you for simply striving to live right. And they'll okay a man and a man laying down in the bed going to a courthouse. They'll okay that. They'll okay two women going to the courthouse. They'll give them the right to adopt and everything. But if a man decides that there's a woman that he loves, and that woman decides that she loves him just the same, and they talk of marriage, people will discourage him in the heart. Oh, no, girl, child, you need to get out there and go see the world. No, bro, you gotta get out there. You gotta sow your wild oats, man. You gotta take your time. No rush into that. But yet nobody ever tells the homosexual to go sow their wild, filthy, dirty oats. Nobody ever tells them that. They okay. They'll fight you for it, tooth and nail. All of these things, contrary to what Almighty Yahweh intended for people to do as far as living. But yet, these are all of the things that the apostles and the prophets prophesied. They forewarned us. But yet at the same time, people fight the scriptures, but don't have a thing in the world to put in the place of it. People fight you tooth and nail for simply wanting to deliver the word to the people and simply see the people saved. But yet, they sit quiet. They sit on their hands concerning the wicked. Or they'll even go along with it. They'll sanction it. But all of these things, again, were written, prophesied, forewarned, and foretold to us. And we were forewarned. Let's go here to the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 4. 2 Timothy, chapter 4, says here in verse 3, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. See the level of darkness that's upon the earth right now? People reject the truth. They don't want to hear Yahweh's word, but the world has been so clouded in darkness, and the people's minds have been so eroded in darkness. You don't get a greater example of this than what the black community here in the United States went through last February. They come out with a comic book, took the comic book, turned the comic book into a damn film. The people hate YAHWEH HaMashiach, but yet the writer of the comic book, Stan Lee and Ryan Coogler, get together and they turn Black Panther into a film. But yet Black Panther was nothing but a rehashed, modified version of YAHWEH HaMashiach's life, as well as what he has to do when he returns to the earth. And the people loved it. The people ate it up. So many striking similarities between T'Challa, as they called him in the movie, and the life and the personage of YAHWEH HaMashiach. But the people hate the Messiah. But they love the damn fictional character so much so that they went and spent over $1 billion in the first 4 weeks that the movie was out. But yet, you couldn't get them to give you $100 to put forth Yahweh's word, to really awaken the people and turn the people to YAHWEH HaMashiach. But yet they spent over $1 billion just going to see a damn movie, to be lied to, a fable. Yahweh gave you a lion of Judah, a lion that's going to save the people of Israel, but they hate him to turn around to see the fictitious panther. And then to show you how deeply connected they were to this damn lie or this fable, they were so demoralized 2 months later when the man was killed in another film. But yet this is what the people want. This is what the people do at the time of gross darkness covering the people. That person take Yahweh's word, twist it, bend it, misconstrue it, present it to you. People love it. But let's go back here to 2 Timothy chapter 3. Chapter 3, first verse says here that this know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, and despisers of those that are tough. This is everything we grapple with today. We have some of the most selfish, egotistical, narcissistic, vile, filthy, disgusting, lying, and deceitful people walking the planet at the time that we occupy it. Nothing to see that people now. Scripture talks about how these people be lovers of themselves more than lovers of Yahweh. There's nothing to see people now all stop. See a person in the street, they got to stop. Everybody with the phone in the air, take a selfie. Everybody's vain, caught up into themselves and their own imagery. But yet at the same time, you're going to die. You can take 1,000,000 pictures of yourself, but nevertheless, at the end of it all, whatever it is that you think your body is, whatever it is you think your facial features are, Almighty Yahweh gave them to you. Almighty Yahweh formed them and fashioned them. But you yourself think to be so mighty and so great that you don't have to praise him. You don't have to worship him. You worship yourself. But you yourself can't even deliver or save yourself, not just from the judgment and destruction that's placed upon this earth, but you can't even so much as save and deliver yourself from the process of life where your body grows old and your body decays and your hair turns gray and your muscle mass loses its elasticity and is no longer as solid or as firm as it used to be. You can't even deliver yourself from the process of growing old where your bone structure begins to weaken and break down, to where you begin to lose your teeth, you lose your sight, you lose your hearing. You can't even so much as deliver yourself from that. But yet, you caught up worshiping yourself as opposed to the one that's able to destroy both body and soul while simultaneously offering unto the meek the chance to be beautified with salvation. These are the types of things that we have to grapple with in these latter days. Selfishness, egotism, people covetous and desirous of the things in which you have. And all of these things here are things that contribute to some of the most heinous acts of disobedience to Almighty Yahweh's word, covetous, boasters, proud. All of these people, these things contribute to murders. These things contribute to envy, backbiting, lies, and falsehood. But yet these things are sitting right here in Yahweh's word, and the apostles prophesied unto us and told us and predicted these things that they were coming. But yet the people throw the book out, and the people just live according to their own understanding, while the conditions of the world go gradually worse and get no better. Let's go on a little bit further. Let's leave the book of 2 Timothy. Let's go into Thessalonians. Let's go into 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Still talking about the last days conditions, the evil and the wickedness that would befall the earth and that we would encounter as we dealt with the people in this world. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, I'm going to start here at verse 7. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he now who lets will let until he be taken out of the way. And that's talking about the Ruach HaKodesh, the mystery of iniquity. Just as Almighty Yahweh established the mystery of Kodesh, or the mystery of holiness, where Yahweh took on the form of flesh to show man that you can live according to the Torah, Shaitan did the same thing. The devil took on the form of flesh as well, to show just how hateful he is toward the world, just how much hate and disdain he has for Yahweh's creation. The apostle said that the mystery of iniquity doth already work. And he that lets is the Ruach HaKodesh. There's a specified time in this earth, according to the book of Revelation, to where those that are Almighty Yahweh's, there's a specified time frame whereby they are to be sealed with that Ruach HaKodesh. And after those servants of Almighty Yahweh are filled with that Ruach HaKodesh, once that's done, the world uses the phrase all hell breaking loose in the earth. The world hasn't seen all hell break loose in the earth yet. But once those servants of Almighty Yahweh are sealed with that Ruach HaKodesh, yeah, you're going to literally see all hell break loose in the earth at that point. It says, and then shall that wicked one be revealed, whom YAHWEH HaMashiach shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And that's power, to just be able to speak and to pronounce somebody's destruction and to bring about somebody's damnation. That's power. But yet, that's the same power that the world fights while being immersed in gross darkness. It's that same power that the atheists hate and despise. It's that same power that the heathens love to reject. It's that same power that man likes to trick himself into thinking that he possesses, while simultaneously doing nothing but deluding and misleading his own self. Let's go on a little bit further. We'll still talk about these conditions that are to befall the people. It says also, even him whose coming is after the working of Shaitan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness and them that perish. And here's the kicker. And he's coming in, he's lying, he's pulling off some great, wonderful, awesome feat. He's pulling off some fabulous things. But it's all done in the spirit of wickedness and deceit with the intent to destroy. But there's a certain demographic of people that is intended to destroy. And all them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So you be careful now, the way in which you speak about Yahweh's word, the way in which you interact with Almighty Yahweh's people, the way in which you boast and buck up against Yahshua HaMashiach, the way in which you speak against the Ruach HaKodesh, and most certainly the way in which you speak in regards to Almighty Yahweh himself. The last thing an individual would want to be seeking after in this day and time is to have Almighty Yahweh turn you over and give you over to a reprobate mind, or prohibit you from being able to receive the love of the truth. Because in such a state as that, ain't no other way to go but to hell. It says, and for this cause, Yahweh shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. Can you imagine that being walking in darkness in the earth, thinking you right, thinking you powerful, thinking you awesome and mighty, but yet at the same time, the way in which you walking is complete error. You clouded in darkness on all sides, but yet to you, you think it's bright. You think everything is brilliant, everything is lovely, when such is not the case. But that's what happens when you disobey Almighty Yahweh and you refuse to receive the love of the truth, given over unto strong delusions. Strong delusions come along in the form of global leaders and dictators, thinking themselves to be almighty, passing laws and edicts that impact everybody but their own selves. Strong delusions, thinking that their kingdoms are going to last forever. And these people think that their kingdoms are invincible or unable to be overthrown, which is why they have their militaries on the ground as well as in the space now, looking, fight. Not you and I, we're not out there, we're not floating around, but these people plan on fighting Yahshua HaMashiach and his heavenly hosts. And they think themselves to win. You tell me that's not a strong delusion? You tell me gross darkness is not covering the earth? That they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. You can't do anything but be in a state of total, complete, gross darkness, to revel in unrighteousness, and to reject the truth of Almighty Yahweh's word. Let's go on a little bit further. Let's go back to the book of Yeshayah. Let's go to Isaiah 59. Isaiah 59:8 talks about the people. Even though this is Yeshayah speaking concerning the people in his era of time, it was so far reaching, it went beyond the lifespan of Yeshayah the prophet. It's here with us today, the same condition. Yeshayah 59:8 or Isaiah 59:8. The way of peace, they know not. And there is no judgment in their goings. They've made themselves crooked paths. And whosoever goes therein shall not know peace. You tell me that ain't the world today? You look at the men and women in the world. You look at the boys and girls in the world today outside of Almighty Yahweh's talk. You sit back, the way of peace, they don't know it. Yahweh's word is the way of peace. They don't know that. All they know, as they would say in the street, you get it how you live. Get it while getting is good. All these different little corrupt sayings to justify their evil, vile, wicked way of life. Well, I'm going to get it as long as it's coming. I'm going to get it before it's gone. I'm going to get it before I'm gone. All of these different things. People turn on each other at the drop of a dime now. It's just so much wickedness in the earth. I was reading a story earlier today about a woman who was killed. Pregnant mother. 6 children and pregnant with a 7th. Coming out of a 7-Eleven, her and her husband. Young man smoking some weed in the proximity of the children. The husband asked the man to not smoke the weed in the proximity of the children. Could he move on a little bit further down the way and smoke? Man gets mad. Man gets in the car, runs everybody over. Mother, father, 6 babies. Runs them all over. Not once, but twice. Doubles back. The father, the 6 children, they survive. Pregnant mother carrying the 7th child dies. You tell me we're not in an evil, wicked world? In that man's mind, he was all right. He was perfectly fine. Him smoking the weed was perfectly fine. Now you go off When you destroying your body in the process, you smoking, but yet the man just asks you to have some respect for the children and to just move on a little bit, get out of their proximity. Rather than, all right, okay, move on and respect the man's wishes, or just simply just keep smoking and keep your little rage to yourself. You go on off, you get in the car, you mow everybody down. In his mind, he's perfectly right. But yet it's the same world that will okay things like that. It's the same world to where a man can be stopped by the police and can be told to freeze. And the man can be in complete and total compliance with the police officer, with his hands up in the air, and still be shot. And the officer say, upon being asked, why'd you shoot me? I don't know. It's the same world that we're in now, whereby the president of a country can go off and can have a damn temper tantrum or a hissy fit behind his desire to construct a border wall between his country and another. And he declares a national emergency behind that. But yet, an entire state, particularly one city, predominantly black, still without adequate drinking water. But yet, that's not a national emergency, though. You want $5 billion and some change to construct a border wall, but it's only going to take a couple $100 million to purify the water in this one city. That's not national emergency, though. You tell me we're not in an evil, wicked world. You tell me gross darkness is not covering the people. We in the world, whereby the babies even have to encounter this stuff. We in the world now where I don't recall in my day and time as a child growing up in the 80s and the 90s in the public school system, I don't recall great deals of suicide behind teasing and taunting and bullying as what we have now. I don't recall those types of things. And I'm not saying that they didn't take place and there weren't instances where they may have happened, but it was a different spirit back then. More often than not, particularly those of the European ethnicity, they were going to school and they were getting bullied and taunted. They were shooting up the school. They was mad. I failed algebra and Kathy laughed at me, so I'm going to kill everybody in lunch. That was what they were doing. But now the children, they going to school, they being teased and taunted and bullied. They coming out now, they killing themselves. You tell me the world isn't covered by gross darkness? Stories like young 8-year-old Gabriel Tay, who was bullied, knocked out in school, left in the bathroom, unconscious. Class changes. People go in and out, step over the little brother and everything. Leave the little 8-year-old young man, leave him right there on the floor. Little young man so weighed down by the spirit of depression and so tired of being victimized and taunted and teased that he goes on off, hangs himself at 8 years old. The world has changed tremendously. There's another sister, Ashante Davis. She fighting, she's being bullied and teased in school in 5th grade. Children make her fight. She didn't want to fight, but having fought and won. And this is how dangerous spiritual conditions are. The little sister won the fight. But the fact that she had to hurt somebody in the process to just maintain and to obtain peace troubled her. So much so that along with the teasing that took place on a regular basis, she went home. She too killed herself. 10 years old. You tell me it's not a spirit of gross darkness covering the earth as well as the people? Now, 8 or 10 years old, I ain't know no ways of killing myself. I didn't even think of killing myself in that era in time. But not only do children these days know how to do it, Shaitan jumps on them and gives them the know-how and the expertise to do it, as well as equips them with all of the things necessary to do it. You tell me we're not in a time frame that requires intense prayer. You tell me we're not in a time frame where we should be holding on to Yahweh's unchanging hand like never before. These are some dark days. Those dark, difficult days that Dr. King talked about being ahead of us. Those of us that are alive now in 2019, those days are not ahead of us, but those days are upon us. Those days are beside us. Some of those days are behind us, but those days that are ahead of us are going to get even darker and even more difficult. And like Zakim Daweed was saying earlier this evening before we started the service, like he was saying in the discussion, Ain't no getting around this. The stuff that's coming down the pipe, there's no getting around it. You ain't running from it. You ain't avoiding it. Like the old worldly singer and poet Gil Scott-Heron had in the song that he released before dying, a song called Running. He said, the thing that I have tried to avoid cannot be eluded, cannot be escaped, it cannot be hidden from, cannot be gotten away from. And that's the condition that we're in right now with Yahweh's word of prophecy. You're not ducking it. You're not getting around it. You're not avoiding it. You're not evading it. You're not digging in your pocket. You're not emptying out your bank account to bribe anybody to stave it off or to buy yourself some more time. We here now. We in this thing unto the end. And if we want salvation, we had to do what Yahshua HaMashiach commanded us to do, which was to endure unto the end. But these are the types of conditions that we in the world right now. Depression, all of these different things taking hold of the people. But the way of peace, in the midst of all of that turmoil and chaos, people don't know the way of peace. Therefore is judgment far from us. Neither does justice overtake us. Right now, we overtaken by tragedies of justice. We're overtaken by misjudgment at best. The best of our leaders, the best of the people that we produce and bring forth in the realms of politics or on the world stage, they're not rendering no righteous judgment unto us. They putting things in effect that will do nothing but bring Yahweh's judgment down upon us. And those things, they don't overtake us. We wait for light, but we behold koshek, or obscurity. We look for brightness, but we walk in koshek. That's us as a people today. The creator of all the light, the creator of that marvelous light, the creator of the light of the world, we fight him, we hate him, we buck and despise him. We go at him on every turn. He raises up servants and messengers to speak unto us. We fight them too, tooth and nail. But yet, we think we're going down the right road. But yet, we turn it and going back and forth. Like the song by the group, the Friends of Distinction. We're going in circles, but we're going in darkness at the same time. We grope for the wall like the blind, and we grope as if we had no eyes. We stumble at noonday as if in the night. And we're in desolate places as dead men. We roar, all of us, like bears, and we mourn, soar like doves. We look for judgment, but there is none. And for salvation, but it's far from us. Look at us today, the way in which we put our trust in everything but Almighty Yahweh and His Son Yahshua. You keep on being mistreated in society. You're shot down. You're miseducated in the schools. You're being fed inadequate food. You're being lied to in every way, shape, or form. You're being exploited in the polls, in the ballot boxes. You're being redlined and pigeonholed into all aspects of society. But yet you keep on going to the courts. You keep on wanting to go to the legal system of the wicked and get nothing. No deliverance whatsoever. You get nothing but disappointment and sadness and rejection. For our transgressions are multiplied before you, and our sins testify against us. For our transgressions are with us, and as for our iniquities, we know them. But in the midst of knowing our iniquities, we as a people, we try to act like they don't exist. We try to not face them. We try to keep on stepping past our iniquities as if they don't pertain to us. In transgression and lying against Yahweh, and departing from our Elohim, speaking oppression and revolt, concerning and conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood, and judgment is turned away back, and justice stands far off, for truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. You tell me we're not in a time frame of gross darkness covering the earth and gross darkness to people, but in the midst of being surrounded and immersed in this gross darkness, those that hold to Yahweh's unchanging hand are going to be delivered out of the gross darkness. Yeah, truth fails, and he that departs from evil makes himself a prey. And Yahweh saw it, and it displeased them that there was no judgment. That's the world today. You can tell the people the truth. You can present the truth to them. They don't want to hear. They don't care to hear. They fight you tooth and nail to reject the truth. And those that depart from evil, they make themselves for a prey. You just simply want to live your life righteously. You just simply want to live according to Almighty Yahweh's word. And in doing such, that's when all of the devils in the world turn against you. As long as you were there and you partook in all of the revelry and the debauchery, they loved you. But as soon as you turn to Almighty Yahweh and you continue to stand for the truth and grow closer and closer in your relationship with Him, that's when the people rise up and fight against you and you become the prey. But Yahweh saw it and it displeased him, that there was no judgment. And he saw that there was no man, and he wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness is sustained him. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate, and the helmet of Yahshua upon his head. And he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and he was clad with zeal as a cloak. And he put on them garments of vengeance. He coming back to fight. He coming back to wage war. And he's not coming back to wage war for sake of oil. He's not coming back to wage war on the behalf of the interests of rich, wealthy, elite businessmen. But he's coming back to wage war to fight on the behalf of the righteous. He's coming back to wage war while wearing that garment of vengeance on the behalf of his children who've been slaughtered, mistreated, disrespected in this world. But in the meantime, we got a great deal of darkness that we have to see on a day-to-day basis. Let's go on a little bit further. Let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 9. Brief scenario here, just one example of the type of darkness that come upon the people in the spiritual sense, to bring about the confusion and the chaos. And this is Yahshua HaMashiach having healed the young man, healed the little boy. Unclean spirit possessed the little boy. Spirit trying to destroy the young lad. But it took Yahshua HaMashiach to heal him and cast the spirits off of him. But then Yahshua told the apostles that there was a special formula for sake of casting out these particular spirits. Let's go to Mark chapter 9, verse 14. And when he had come to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning with them. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed. And they ran to him, and they saluted him. And he says unto the scribes, what question ye with them? You know how people do sometimes. People run up on the priest, people run up on the priesthood, or people, the servants of Yahweh. They just want to argue and debate. Not seeking to ask questions for sake of gaining greater levels of understanding and comprehension in Yahweh's word, but looking to try to upstage someone, or try to one-up somebody, or try to make themselves look wiser than what they are. And this is what the scribes were doing with the apostles at the time that Yahshua walked up on them. And he asked them, what question you have then? What you questioning them for? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I brought unto thee my son, which has a dumb spirit. And wheresoever he takes him, he tears him, and he foams, and he gnashes with his teeth, and he pines away. And I spoke to your disciples that they should cast him out, but they couldn't. And he answered them and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. In other words, how long unto you? Come on, how long I gotta do this? Bring him over here to me. And they brought him unto him. And when he saw him straightway, the spirit tore him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed, foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came unto him? And he said, of a child. See, even the children, you would think that the children would get a reprieve. You would think that the children would get a pass. But such is not the case, especially not in these latter days with darkness covering the earth and gross darkness covering the people. Shaitan is going to use everything at his disposal to destroy Almighty Yahweh's creation. And when he comes at Almighty Yahweh's creation, he's not putting them into certain demographics. He has no age restrictions or age requirements. It's not like Shaitan said, well, you know what? I'll only destroy the adults. I'll be nice. I'll leave the children. I'll leave everybody 18 years of age and under. I won't bother them. I won't take them. I won't destroy them. But everything 18 and above, I sift them like wheat. No. Shaitan comes at all of Yahweh's people, all of Yahweh's nation, from the youngest to the oldest. And he comes at the babies with a great level of fervor and comprehension, whereby his ultimate goal is to destroy them before they can even begin to achieve what Yahweh has set out for them to accomplish. Why is Zakeem Dawid often talks to us as parents, he talks to us about praying for our children and the importance of being able to recognize the spiritual conditions that take hold of our children and crying out and being able to have the children in subjection unto the Torah. This is why Zakeem Dawid often talks to us about it. And reading stories such as this in the scripture, you see the importance It's why Jeremiah told the people in the book of Lamentations, told the mothers to cry out for your children in the night watches. And because that passage instructs the mothers to cry out for their children in the night watches, don't let the fathers off the hook either. They are compelled to pray for their children as well, because the children come to the world, they're defenseless vessels. But yet for Shaitan's usage, he sees them as the most ideal, because they can't repel them. They can't ward them off yet. They haven't been taught to pray properly. So it's incumbent upon the parents to pray for them. But we're going to go on a little bit further, because Yahshua asked the man's father, how long had it been in him? How long had the spirit been upon him? And he told him, since he was a child, Shaitan does not let up. Shaitan may give a momentary lapse in the trial, but yet that lapse, or what you might see as a reprieve, that's nothing more than Shaitan regrouping. That's nothing more than Shaitan modifying his next attack. And oftentimes it casts him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. And Yahshua said unto him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. See, now if you could do anything, see, you hear the doubt in their voice. So a lot of times, what a person says or what a person does not say will sometimes give you a great deal of insight into what they really feel. And it says here, if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. The operative word, or the most pivotal word in that statement, is if, which denotes a partial level of doubt, some skepticism. But Yahshua says, if you can believe, if you can do that, the deliverance is on the other side of it. And that same thing applies to all of us in whatever our trials are. Whosoever it is that we're up against, or whatsoever it is that we're up against, or whatsoever it is that we're going through, if we can simply believe that Almighty Yahweh can deliver us from it, Yahweh will deliver us from it. Yahweh has not brought us as his people this far just to leave us or to abandon us and forsake us. Yahweh, unlike a great deal of fathers in the earth, Yahweh is not that deadbeat father. That, oh, I'm coming to get you on such and such a day. I'm going to take you here. We're going there. And you get dressed up. And mom got you sitting on the step or at the door waiting on Pop to come and get you. And you sitting there, well, Daddy said he was coming at such and such a time. It's 20 minutes to that time. Oh, okay, 5 minutes. Daddy should be coming. All right, Daddy running a little late. It's 10 minutes after he said he was coming. And you look up. You got to lay down and go to school the next day because Daddy never came to get you. Oh, man, maybe he's running late. He come. That's not how Yahweh works. It's our heavenly Abba. Yahweh will never leave us. Yahweh will not forsake us. But the saddest part about it, in these latter days with gross darkness upon the earth, many people forsaking Yahweh. Many people are abandoning Almighty Yahweh and his son Yahshua. Trials and pressure hitting like you would not believe. People walking off from the commandments. People forsaking Yahweh. People rejecting Yahshua HaMashiach. All because of a little bit of pressure. And I say a little bit of pressure, not in the sense of speaking condescendingly or minimizing anybody's trials, but I say a little bit of pressure because if your life hasn't been brought into jeopardy, if you haven't been face down the barrel of a gun, or if you haven't had your life actually put into question concerning the trial, it's just a little pressure. Talk with anybody who's ever had their life in jeopardy and lived to tell about it. Ask them to tell you those feelings of not knowing whether or not they will live through the next few moments. That's some pressure. But whereas a person wants you to come into work and they tell you you either get into work or you lose a job, that's small stuff, those small things. You tell your family about this way of life and your family mock you or ridicule you because you made new changes to your diet or you made changes to your social life and your patterns of conduct to act and to live in accordance with the Torah, and they ridicule you for that small stuff, a little bit of pressure. But it's those same things that cause people to not believe just because the pressure was applied and it lasted a little bit longer than they cared to endure. But Yahshua says to this father here, says, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. And remember that. If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Master, I believe. Help thou my unbelief. And when Yahshua saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, You dumb and deaf spirit, I charge you, come out of it, and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried, and rent him sore, and came out of him. And he was as one dead, in so much that many said, He is dead. But Yahshua took him by the hand, and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was coming to the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could we not cast him out? And Yahshua said unto him, This kind can come forth by nothing but fasting and prayer. You think you got trials, you think you got tribulations, you think you got pressure, and you don't feel as though they letting up in the time frame that you need them to, or you feel as though you too weak to stand up under it, and you feel as though your faith might be lapsing, turn down that plate for a day. Turn down that plate for 2 days. Cry out unto Almighty Yahweh in the midst of your hunger. Cry out unto Almighty Yahweh. If you got the strength to stand and can do it for 3 days, cry out unto Almighty Yahweh concerning whatsoever issues it is that's hovering around you and whatever conditions trouble you. Cry out unto him and afflict that soul. See if he don't move on your behalf. Because in the same fashion in which that evil spirit, at the command of Yahshua, rent the brother and tore him and threw him down and cast him down and jumped out of him, and people thought he was dead. That's how Shaitan will do people. He puts so much pressure on you and applies so much pressure. He squeezes what he thinks is the life and the energy out of you. And at the end of the trial, people might not even recognize you based upon the pressure that was applied to you. But if you hold on to Yahshua's unchanging hand, he'll take your hand just like he did this man in this story and will revive you. It will restore you to a greater state of strength than what you were in before Shaitan applied the pressure to you and tried to break your faith down. And it's that type of faith that we're going to need in these latter days as we grapple with the evil that's being unleashed on this earth, as we grapple with the hatred, the animosity, the rejection, and all of the other evil, nasty things that the world of Shaitan and his children throw at us on a daily basis. But let's go in here into the book of Yeshayahu once again. Let's go to Yeshayahu chapter 42. Go ahead to Yeshayahu chapter 42, verse 6. I, Yahweh, have called you in righteousness, and I will hold your hand, and I will keep you and give you for a covenant of the people, for a light to the Gentiles. See, in the midst of all your trials and all your tribulations, keep Yahweh at the forefront of your mind. Keep Almighty Yahweh at the forefront of everything you do, no matter what's going right in your life or no matter what's going wrong in your life. Keep Almighty Yahweh at the forefront of your mind in all things, and he will do just what he says here in this verse and the ones that follow. It says he will hold your hand, not forsake you, but will keep you. It says also he's going to do these things even further, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Not just opening the literal blind eyes of those who can't see in a miraculous fashion, but also opening the blind eyes of those who are blinded spiritually, those who may not have an increased level of belief and faith in Almighty Yahweh yet, because they have not seen the miraculous works of Almighty Yahweh before their eyes. See, a lot of times people don't realize that your trial is not just for you. Your trial is also for others around you. Your trial also serves to strengthen your brethren as they see you go through your trial and as they see you maintain your faith and your integrity, provided you do so. And as you see Almighty Yahweh deliver you from your trial, and as you share your trial and your testimony with your brethren, it serves to strengthen them, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison. I'm not just talking correctional facilities now, but I'm talking prisons. The spiritual conditions serve as prisons as well. The prison of unbelief, the prison of doubt, the prison of skepticism, all of these things that the world would rather have a person abide in than to abide in Almighty Yahweh's Hasid. People sit back, they don't believe Almighty Yahweh will move on their behalf. People don't believe Almighty Yahweh will fight on the behalf of his people. People don't believe Almighty Yahweh gets angry and moves on the wicked so that his people will grow and increase in their faith and trust, not in their own might and power, but in the power and the might of Almighty Yahweh. It says, I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praises to graven images. For behold, the former things are come to pass, and the new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. That's what Yahweh's word of prophecy does. Everything that we have to go through, it's been already written down. Everything that is going to happen has been already foretold. We just have to devote ourselves to delving into Yahweh's word. Or as Yahshua HaMashiach said, searching the scriptures daily, for it be they which testify of him. It's out of these scriptures that our salvation is coming. Our obedience unto these scriptures is what's going to bring us our salvation, our belief in Almighty Yahweh and his word. Yeshaya chapter 9 verse 2 says that the people that walk in darkness have seen a great light. And they that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them has the light shined. See, even in the midst of the trials and the tribulations, you think it's the end. You think it's as dark as it's ever been. But even in the midst of the darkness, Almighty Yahweh is capable of delivering you out of the darkness and illuminating even that. Even in your worst trial or your worst tribulation, Almighty Yahweh is even able to bring you a sense of joy in that. Even with something as horrific and as menacing as death, even in the midst of death or the loss of a loved one, especially if you see a family member that's striving in Almighty Yahweh, or a family member that's at least, if they don't know Yahweh, they're striving to at least live decently before Yahweh as best they know how, though they don't know. Death and the loss of that loved one, as sad as it is, even in the midst of that, a person can take great comfort in knowing that their loved one no longer has to suffer with pain and grief and agony and all of the bodily ills and aches that trouble them. And even in the midst of comfort, you can find in knowing that if a person's ways pleased Almighty Yahweh, though they died, if they be found pleasing in Almighty Yahweh's sight, and if you yourself be found pleasing in Almighty Yahweh's sight, you too will be reunited in Almighty Yahweh's kingdom. And that's phenomenal. Only Almighty Yahweh can take something as dark as the phenomenon of death, which he used as a punishment, as a tool of instruction to us. But even in that, as dark as it is, he's able to bring a light out of that for his people, Yisrael. Let's go to the book of Tehillim. I'll soon be done. Let's go to the book of Psalms 139. Psalm 139, verse 11. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hides not from thee, but the night shines as the day, and the darkness and the light are both alike unto thee. For you have possessed my reins, you've covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knoweth right well, or that my soul knows very well. See, even in darkness, to show you how merciful Almighty Yahweh is unto his creation. Yahweh created the night and the day. He created the sun and the moon. And even in the creating of the darkness of night, Yahweh give you the moon as the firmament, as a provision of light, even in the darkness of night. Even in our trials and our afflictions and our tribulations, as dark as they may be, Yahweh still gives us that mercy of having Yahshua HaMashiach as our Redeemer, who is able to illuminate even the darkness that we think we abide in the midst of our trials and afflictions. And just as Yahweh is able to illuminate the darkness for us, he's even able to illuminate it and bring us out of it and into a marvelous light by way of his son, Yahshua HaMashiach. Let's go back a little bit further into Tehillim. Let's go back into Psalm 107. Psalm 107 verse 8 says here, oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his toughness or his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. If only men would just praise Yahweh One lesson as an adult, I can honestly say I've learned and seen in the lives of so many different people that I've known in the Messiah, Yahshua, even in the midst of their trials and their tribulations, as hard as it may have looked to me, observing different people's trials and tribulations that came before me, their praise of Almighty Yahweh made their trials look as if it was just a walk in the park. To see them praise Almighty Yahweh in the midst of afflictions, to see people praise Almighty Yahweh in the midst of losing jobs or being without momentarily, but yet they still praise Almighty Yahweh. And in the midst of praising Almighty Yahweh, being given jobs that were greater than the ones that they lost. Seeing people praise Almighty Yahweh in the midst of marital problems and dysfunction and in the midst of divorces. And then going on to be married and giving spouses much better than the ones that they had recently separated and divorced from. Seeing those types of things, life becomes so much easier when an individual realizes the importance of praising Yahweh in the midst of everything. Some people praise Almighty Yahweh when everything is going great. As long as everything is all right, people put them hands together, they sing, they dance, and they give praise to Almighty Yahweh as long as everything is going good. But then when troubles hit and pressures put on them, suddenly they forget all about praising Almighty Yahweh. They devote so much of their focus into trying to deliver themselves out of the trials. But yet at the same time, like a quagmire or a person being sunken in quicksand, every move they make, they just entrench themselves deeper and deeper into the quicksand because they're relying on their own might. They praising the works of their own hands, which have brought them no deliverance. But to see people go through pressure like you couldn't imagine and still praise Almighty Yahweh makes life so much better, so much more grand. It puts everything into a greater and a more proper perspective. So oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Why? Because he satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with goodness, such as sit in Koshek and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron, because they rebelled against the words of Yahweh and contemned with the counsel of the Most High. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried unto Yahweh in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distress. He brought them out of Koshek in the shadow of death, and he brake their bands in asunder. Oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of Israel. So that's the key to being brought out of gross darkness. Your praise of Almighty Yahweh. No matter what you go through, no matter what you have, or no matter what you lack, no matter what you're deprived of, no matter what's thrown upon you, no matter what lie is told about you, no matter who switches up on you or betrays you or turns against you, you come out of all of it unscathed. You continually praise Almighty Yahweh. And one of the most beautiful things about this particular psalm, if you look at it, you really break it down. The world, they like music and they like to jam and party and dance and things of that nature. But the Psalms were just songs actually written down. And if you look at this 107th Psalm, and you look at it according to the format of what the way they structure songs today, where there may be verses here and there, then there may be a bridge or a hook or what they call a chorus. That one part where it's repeated over and over in between the verses. Look at this 107th Psalm for what it is. Verse 8 here is what they would call today the chorus or the hook. You go throughout this psalm, you see this same point being emphasized over and over. This 8th verse. Oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. And you jump on down a few verses and you see all of the things that Yahweh did for his people. You get to verse 15. Here it is again. Oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. Fools, because of their transgression and because of their iniquity, are afflicted. Their soul abhors all manner of meat, and they draw near unto the gates of death. But then they cry unto Yahweh in their trouble, and he saves them out of their distresses. He sent his word and he healed them and delivered them from their destructions. That's what we're waiting on now. We're waiting on the second advent of Yahweh's word to this earth. And by Yahweh's word, I speak now, not just of literal words written and transcribed to a piece of paper, but no, I speak of his word in the personage of Yahshua HaMashiach. And you go on further as you read down into the book, you see all of the miraculous, wonderful things that Yahweh does for his people. And you see that same theme reiterated again in the 21st verse. Oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. This incumbent upon us, no matter what's happening to us. Continually give praise, honor, and glory unto Almighty Yahweh. No matter how great our lives are, or no matter how terrible we might think they are. You can't think they're too terrible if you're still able to articulate your thoughts concerning your life. Your life can't be too bad if you still have the breath of life within you. And with that being said, it's incumbent upon all of us to continually, forever praise Almighty Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
Now let's go back here and get my closing scripture. Let's go to Yeshaya chapter 29. Isaiah 29:18 says, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh. See, right now, society puts so much pressure on the meek. The meek are they ostracized for simply just being who they are. They are ostracized for just simply being humble and just simply wanting to not boast of themselves or be lovers of their own selves or pleasures more than Yahweh. But the meek ostracized in many instances for just simply wanting to just live life humbly and keep Almighty Yahweh's Torah. And they put so much pressure on them that they can barely take joy in anything. But yet Yahweh says that the meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh. And the poor among men shall rejoice in the Kodesh one of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to nothing, and the scorner is consumed, and all they that watch for iniquity are cut off. So those right now, even those in the world as well as amongst Israel, those that sit back and just like to watch or just like to see a person's mistake or to like to highlight a person's shortcoming or just looking for faults to highlight and magnify. You better be careful with that behavior. That type of lifestyle has a consequence, the likes of which you don't want any part of if you're in your right frame of mind. But going further, it says here that those that make a man that jump a few lines. Sorry, forgive me, Israel. It says, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. The one thing you do not want to be, cut off from Yahweh. Those that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproves in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of nothing. But be careful with the way in which you sit back and look to find fault and failure in others, because Almighty Yahweh said, those that watch for iniquity will cut you off. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, who redeemed Abraham, concerning the house of Jacob, Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face wax pale. You ever see a person get so distressed with what they're going through that they just lose what sense of color in which they might have, to where they just become so pale under the pressure and the stress of what it is that they're going through. They don't know what to do. They get sick to their stomach. You ever see it? Well, if you've ever seen it and you can remember it, know of a surety, I always say that that's not going to be the fate of the house of Jacob. He says that Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face wax pale. But when he seeth his children, the works of my hands in the midst of them, they shall sanctify my name and sanctify the Kodesh one of Jacob, and shall fear the Elohim of Israel. And they also that erred in Ruach, or in spirit, they shall come to understanding. And they that murmur shall learn the doctrine. See how merciful Almighty Yahweh is? Even those who currently walk in darkness, even those who may not fully understand what they're doing, Almighty Yahweh even extending mercy unto some of them, those who have murmured against things that were written in the scripture that they may not have fully understood. If they simply turn unto him, he said, those that murmur shall understand doctrine. So even as we sit back and we watch the world now being possessed and filled and overtaken by gross darkness, in the midst of all of that, it behooves us to forever hold unto Almighty Yahweh's unchanging hand, so as to be brought out of that gross darkness and brought into that marvelous light. Because it's in that marvelous light that everything that afflicts us now, we find redemption and deliverance from it. Whether they be mental issues, whether they be spiritual conditions, whether they be physical ailments of the body, whatsoever it is that's troubling us right now, as this gross darkness covers the earth and the people. If we hold on to Yahshua's unchanging hand, all of those things be taken off of us as Almighty Yahweh's people. And those that trouble us will be brought down low and reduced to nothing. At this time, Israel, I conclude on that note, and I simply ask that we all rise as we close out in prayer. Abba Yahweh, we present ourselves before you ever so humbly as the body of Yahshua HaMashiach, simply asking that you watch over each and every one of us this evening as we prepare to exit your house and make our way to our own. Father, we ask that you watch over us in the roadways, those of us that have to travel, whether it be a great distance or a short distance. Allow our travel and our commute to be safe, and allow us to reach our final destinations, as well as the family that has joined us by way of the live stream. Bless all of them to be able to lie down just as we will, and to take great comfort and great peace in meditating upon your word, and to take great rest that you grant unto us this evening, and allow us all to be able to arise tomorrow clothed in a right and proper frame of mind. Keep our minds focused and stayed on you. Keep our minds from the worldly distractions that are destroying many Hebrews. Keep our minds focused and stayed upon praising you. Be with every aspect of our service tomorrow, Abba Yahweh, wheresoever Israel is throughout the world, calling upon your name. Place your words in the mouth of your messengers. Place your Ruach HaKodesh in the bodies of your messengers. Lead them, guide them, and instruct them. Place your will and your word and your desire to do your will upon all of your people. Be with our hands, our hearts, and our minds as we sing praises unto you, as we play instruments. Be with the hands, the hearts, and the minds of those who prepare meal offerings to feed your people, as well as even be with the hearts and the minds of those that give cheerfully to the maintenance and the upkeep of your house, Abba Yahweh. And at the end of our days, grant us space in your kingdom. These blessings, Abba Yahweh, we ask of you ever so humbly. In the name of your Son, our Savior and Redeemer, Yahshua HaMashiach's Kodesh name we pray. Hallelujah. 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 Shabbat Shalom, House of Israel.